Entrepreneurship is hard. It's very hard. There's a lot of times of uncertainty and pushing with, no result, or setting goals and looking to achieve those things. And you may or may not hit those things. And if you don't, what keeps you going? Right. And then I can't speak to this personally, but, in 2024, with the access of information that we have to these top notch entrepreneurs that, get to a point to where they say, you reach a point where it's your number, right? Where if I make this number and when I make this number, I'm set. Like my life doesn't change, right? So once you get to that point as well, on the flip side, like what keeps you going? And I think that for you to be able to answer those questions and keep pushing and keep driving, you have to have something beyond yourself. And I think that that's where your why comes into place. Welcome back to another episode of the Blueprint Podcast with your host. I'm Zach Heyer.
And I'm Spencer Maxwell. And today on the Blueprint Podcast, we want to talk about something that is super important in the business realm, super important to your entrepreneurship journey. We're talking about the power of why, finding your why. So real quick, we like to start with stories or we like to relate with stories and experiences. Zach, tell me your why and what keeps you going.
Yeah, I think for entrepreneurs, this is a huge thing. Why do I say that? I think because entrepreneurship is hard. It's very hard. There's a lot of times of uncertainty and pushing with, no result, or setting goals and looking to achieve those things. And you may or may not hit those things. And if you don't, what keeps you going? Right. And then I can't speak to this personally, but, in 2024, with the access of information that we have to these top notch entrepreneurs that, get to a point to where they say, you reach a point where it's your number, right? Where if I make this number and when I make this number, I'm set. Like my life doesn't change, right? So once you get to that point as well, on the flip side, like what keeps you going? And I think that for you to be able to answer those questions and keep pushing and keep driving, you have to have something beyond yourself. And I think that that's where your why comes into place. So after that long soliloquy, I'll get into my why and answer your question. So for me, it's kind of multi-pronged, multifaceted, a combination of things. So for me, I started having this vision of what I wanted my life to look like and what I wanted to be able to do in the future, not only for myself, but for others and for other people. And for me, as it's probably no surprise after, however many episodes of the Blueprint, that we're Christians, I'm a Christian. And I want to be able to have extreme impact, obviously in my family and my kids and their kids and generations to come. But I also want to have impact outside of my family, on people that I may or may not know. In the church, there's a lot of, mission trips and things of that sort. And I think that that's a great thing, right? I think that utilizing your time to serve is fantastic. And I think that that's something that should also be incorporated alongside everything else.
Business owners, do you know the value of creating a strong brand and realize social media is one of the best ways to do it, but don't have the time to stay consistent or know where to start? Do you need a modern website or an eye-catching logo? You only get one first impression and you've got to make it count. No matter if you're looking for a website, a logo package, or if you need a professional to craft and implement a custom social media strategy to create a recognizable brand and drive sales, the Z&T agency has got you covered. Odds are you've probably been thinking about these things to some degree, but didn't know a solution. Or maybe this is all new to you and you're interested in hearing more. Either way, we'd love to talk to you. Reach out to zach.hire@theztagency.com to book your consultation call today.
But, and this is just my opinion, feel free to agree or disagree, but I think that real impact comes through finance, right? When Christmas season comes running around the corner, and the church or people are asking for donations to deploy in the community to help with Christmas presents, or families that are struggling, or starting a church outside of the United States, things of that sort. What do? They raise money, right? Yes, your time would be valuable, but that's not going to accomplish the goal. So for me, it's like, how can I create generational wealth to the point that, and this seems very just crazy, but like when the church asks for, our goal is to raise $300,000. How cool would it be to stroke a $300,000 check anonymously? People don't know that's from you, but you write the check for that goal, and then anything that is raised above and beyond that, hopefully you can double that, because of, if you write a check for 300 and the rest of the people come together to do another 300 or whatever. Like, I just want to be able to have enough money to where, and I like to call this kingdom work. Yeah. To where like you can make real impact on people long-term for generations and do kingdom work for Christ. And I also don't think that just giving people money is a healthy way to go about it. But how can you take that money and, instead of, handing the man the fish or handing the woman a fish, how do you teach them to fish? Right? How do I want to be able to do stuff like where, guys that are like in our position, we're, like we're trying to get, businesses started and build our investment portfolio. We're trying to raise capital to go deploy and do things. How can you find the next Zach Hire, Spencer Maxwell that are hungry to grow? And how can I, say, hey, here's the deal. Like, you want to create, a business, you want to do these things, come to me, present it to me. I'll give you feedback, insight, all this kind of stuff. And as you begin to do this, I'll give you the capital that you need to take that business forward. Yeah, it would be cool. Doing things like that, doing something beyond just me, myself, my family, doing something that impacts others. Yeah. So that's one. But two, obviously, like, I would love to, live a nice lifestyle, but I also, and for Tawny and I, we really prioritize our health. And, we talk about when we do have kids, what are we going to do for education and things of that nature, and to make sure that you are in prime health to have longevity, that your children have great health. That costs a lot of money, right? So I want them to from a granular level, to be able to have, all the organic foods, all, the access to, top medicines if that's necessary, trainings, things of that sort. On the health spectrum, on the education spectrum, I don't want to be limited by what I can provide to them to set them up for the future by, a financial restriction. So I want to be able to utilize that to provide the best type of education for my children, but also education for myself, because one of the big quotes that I'm bullish on is the more that you know, the more that you find out that you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's my goal to be a lifelong student and continue to progress in, my skill sets and my education. And that comes at a cost, right?
Yeah.
So I want to be able to, live the best life that I can, my family live the best life that we can from those aspects and those points of views without financial restriction.
Yeah.
So for me, that's kind of my overarching, like, why I want to set out to accomplish what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get off my soapbox because I just talked for a while. And let me reflect the question back on you, Spencer. What's your why? What keeps you motivated?
Yeah, my why changes with the seasons that I go through every couple of years. But, when I was young and dumb and got into the entrepreneur world, it was all about money. It was I just want to make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
But now it's gotten to deeper roots than that. The reason why I want financial success is to have freedom to go to my children's soccer games and to be able to, take them on vacations, to ultimately build lifelong memories. So my why has become my wife and kids. I want to give my wife a life she's never had. I want to give my kids a great life, a great future, a great business to inherit without creating entitlement is my biggest thing. But every day when I wake up, in the front of my mind, it's my wife and my kids are my why. And then I would say this. So that's my number one motivator. It's like a cheat code. I always joke about it. Having kids is like having a cheat code because you just work so much harder. It's a deeper why than anything else. But my second why is kind of like what you said. Outside of the family aspect, I just want to give back in so many different ways. And I don't mean to give back in a specific way. I mean give back as far as service goes in the community. Give back. I would love to just, if money's not an issue and I don't have to work every day for it, because I've gotten to that point. I would love to take on a young bullish entrepreneur and give them a fighting chance that they've never had.
Yeah.
And be able to train them up and pass down knowledge, serve them. I think that's what being a leader is just serving. And that's another why of mine is I want to lead. I want to get to the point of, why I work so hard is because I want to get to such a point where I can lead others because I get such fulfillment out of that. A lot of people think rest is just laying down on the couch and, recuperating your energy. I get rest in being around people and helping people. Like that just fills my cup. I walk away so energetic. So that would be my second why. And that kind of takes us into kind of, a big question is, how do you discover your why? And what Zach and I kind of reflected on as far as like, okay, well, if you take your, looking back at our whys, and it takes time to discover it, right? It changes with the seasons of life that you go through, but it boils down to what, Zach, what you're passionate about, right? So like what you're passionate about is your wife, your financial freedom, your time. I'm passionate about my family, giving back, leading, as you are as well, which ultimately creates your why. So it's once again back to the thing that we like to talk about, which is reverse engineering. Start with what? You got anything to talk about as far as like starting with the what to create a why?
Well, I mean, when I think about this, I feel like,
All
Are you looking to buy, sell, or invest? Be sure to use a Maxwell Group at NavX Realty, where your dream is our passion. The Maxwell Group takes pride in client relationships and experiences. We utilize our knowledge, our love for the industry, and our extensive network to handle your life's biggest investment. Call or text Spencer Maxwell at 937-572-5382.
It can be a little bit more complicated than that, because so many people say, follow your passion, follow your dreams, all that kind of stuff, which to a degree, yes, I agree.
It could be that simple for some people.
It could be. But and I'm not trying to be like cynical or pessimistic, but a lot of people's, and pause. Let me back up. It all depends on what your end goal is. Like, what are you looking to achieve? Because that dictates a lot. Are you just simply trying to make enough money to pay your bills, and do what you enjoy and maybe go on a vacation a year? Or are you looking to, build generational wealth and have all those things? I think that that determines like how you can approach this, right? Because if you would like to, just cover your bills, things that, then yes, just, try to follow your passion, all that kind of stuff. But for a lot of people, their passion probably isn't going to make them rich, because yes, and I'll use myself an example. Yes, I love business. I have a passion for business, but if I could just do anything in the world, when I was in like 8th grade, I wanted to be a marine biologist. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I had no idea what that entailed.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously. At all. But
no shame to you marine biologists out there.
No, I didn't know what it involved in terms of like how much more of like, I love water. I love being around water. And so I was more so focused on the marine part, not the biology part.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more like studying and, all that kind of stuff that goes into it. That's not the point. I love water, being around water, swimming, being on a boat, things of that sort. So if I could just do anything in the world, dude, I would probably go be like a professional, like, scuba diver and take people on, scuba diving expeditions or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be a passion of mine. I'm probably not going to get wealthy off of being a scuba dive like tour guide.
Yeah. So if it's not your passion, that you're in, you need to find a what. Like, what is driving you?
Yes.
What are your goals?
Right. And you may not need to separate the passion from the direct work that you do or the business that you create, and look for your passion of, yes, I have extreme passion for time, freedom, flexibility, right? I have an extreme passion for my family and for my future children. And just as you said, the reason why I would like to be self-employed and have autonomy over my schedule, whatever that may look like, is so that way I can be an involved husband. I can be an involved father.
Yep.
So those are things that are that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about, making generational impact on people, in the lives of people, and pouring back into them. Right. So I'm not necessarily looking at the what through the lens of the direct work that I do. I just more so look at that of like, what's the best vehicle to get me to my why?
Yeah.
So that could be my approach, and what works for me. But like I said, everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody has different objectives, and that is okay. I'm not saying that, creating generational wealth is the only way or the right way. It's just what the path that I prefer.
Mm.
Right. So, I mean, if other people, and we had touched on this, like if you're working your 9 to 5 and you just want to have enough money to cover your bills and, live, a normal type life, that is absolutely okay too. Right. So your passion may just look a little bit different. Your why just may look a little bit different for whatever your ultimate goal is.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Makes total sense. But it's so we highly encourage everybody to sit down, write it down, make it plain. As far as discovering your why, take some time on it. Start with what are you passionate about? What are your goals? And then ultimately find your why. Because when you have a why in what you do, then you will go far beyond if you didn't have a why. I picture just a person without a why running on a hamster wheel, running in place.
Yeah.
So once you discover your why, you can go light years further. So,
and I think that regardless of what your goals are, it's very important to find a why beyond yourself.
yes.
You know what I mean? Because in my opinion, you can reach all the success in the world, but if you're completely self-focused and a selfish person at heart, I think that all the success in the world will not be fulfilling.
Correct.
Right? So that's why I think it's incredibly important to find something to anchor yourself outside of yourself.
Well, I think now that you say that, I think ultimately, if you were to ask me what is a why, I think a why is one, it's a personal mission statement, but I think a why is when you have nothing else to give and you are in a dark season, the why is what makes you dig it out, get to the next level. Your why is your journey to the grit.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially because this is a business and entrepreneurship podcast, especially for entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
And I touched on it briefly at the beginning, but like, yes, there is this glamour factor to entrepreneurship of like, oh, you get to, create your schedule and you make a lot of money and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But like, do you realize what it takes to get there? And then also once you get there, like it ain't rainbows and butterflies all the time,
right?
By any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. It's probably one of, if not the hardest journeys you will embark on. Right. So if all you are is motivated by the money or whatever it may be, money's only so much of a motivator when you're getting absolutely kicked in the teeth over and over and over and nothing seems to be working and you can't make payroll and you can't pay your bills and things are fluctuating and there's no stability.
Yeah.
And you're just getting smacked in the mouth. Like, you have got to have something that is just pushing you forward and keeping you going.
And that's your why.
And that's your why.
That gets you to the next level.
And I also think
that's the importance of it.
And I also think that why needs to be something beyond yourself. Because because if it's not beyond yourself, I would say the percentages are not in your favor of making it through. Right?
Correct.
Because if you're just, strictly focused on yourself and your emotions and how you're feeling and what you want, that will probably fail you.
Yeah.
In the times of true difficulty.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yep, that's your encouragement. Stay on the observation deck. If you need to sit on it for a while, that's fine. But, make it a point to discover your why. Work your way towards your why and start with what. Any other words of encouragement?
Well, we always end the Blueprint podcast with a little snippet of scripture.
You want it?
So yeah, well, I can
take it.
I can do it. So we seem to love Proverbs, And today is not going to be any different.
It is a book of wisdom, my
It is,
friend.
and it's very practical. So Proverbs 20, verse 5, knowing what is right is like deep water in the heart. A wise person draws from the well within.
And that's your why right there. That's the importance. The why is the deep well within your heart that you can keep pulling from, that will never run dry, and that will take you to the next level.
Period.
Well,
as always, if you found some value or liked the episode, feel free to like and subscribe. And we will see you again next week on the Blueprint Podcast.
Peace.
Peace.